Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to season 2 of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone Puzzle Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method, an infertility warrior, 2-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. On today's show, I talked to Sophie Shepherd, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, the founder of She Talks Health, the creator of the She Talks Health podcast, and the co-creator of EmpowerHER, a 12-week gut and hormone restoration program. Sophie helps women around the globe transform their menstrual and digestive health through a combination of root cause diagnostic testing and nutrition and lifestyle science, so they can finally have straightforward answers to their most mystifying symptoms. Sophie's mission is to educate and empower women so they can reclaim their gut and menstrual health and get their lives back. On today's show, we talk all about period health, gut health, and histamines. This show is packed with so much info that you really probably are not familiar with, but that is so important for your fertility and hormones journey. So grab a pen and paper, take some notes, and let's listen in as I talk to Sophie. And now I would love to welcome Sophie to the show. Hey, Sophie, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Me too. I'm really excited about our conversation. So let's just kind of dive into that. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, how you started working in women's health and around hormones and period health.
Yeah, do we have a whole hour?
Right?
Always such a good story. But
yes.
So my story started when I was a kid. Actually, I had really bad IBS, or what I like to call IBS. Like if you remove the I, you kind of have your diagnosis. I was 16 at the time, and just everything you could imagine going alongside that irritable bowel syndrome, running to the bathroom, not being able to control my bowels, just being the girl that was always gassy and bloated through high school, through college, super embarrassing. It was awful. And then I got out of college, and I actually was in a relationship with someone who was very emotionally abusive and verbally abusive. And unfortunately that just really triggered more stress. And so I had this underlying current of 7 years of bad gut health, which at the time I didn't know anything about. And then this massive emotional stress, and my body just was like, no more. And I didn't know what it was. And I'll tell you in a second what it was, but I ended up having my hair falling out. I was having dry skin. My nails were breaking off. I was getting very depressed. In fact, I actually was very depressed and suicidally depressed at a time. And I was very fatigued. So I would sleep for 12 hours and I couldn't get out of bed. And of course, my digestion was all off, and I had gained about 40 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just, I didn't even recognize who I was.
Yeah.
And I was young. I was 21, 22, just out of college, trying to start my career as a theater stage manager on Broadway. That was my previous career. and I was just unable to even function.
Oh.
And anyone who's in the arts knows that that job is pretty intense and stressful in and of itself, 12, 15-hour days. So I couldn't do my job. And that's when I went to the doctor and was like, what's going on? And I'll never forget this. She said, well, I think you're just depressed.
Oh my God. Like we choose to be depressed. Like, yeah, like that's what I want to do.
Or like that depression makes your hair fall out. Like, I'm sorry, what?
No.
Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I have way too many symptoms for this to just be depression. So it was my first time advocating for myself. And I actually said, hey, like, I need you to run all the blood work you can. So I honestly, luckily, my TSH, my thyroid stimulating hormone, came back very high. I think it was in like the 8, it was like around 8. And for anyone who doesn't know, the range is 0 to 4 if you're conventional medicine, and much shorter, smaller than that if you're in functional medicine. And so she was able to diagnose me with hypothyroidism, which is when your thyroid slows down and your metabolism slows down along with it, which explained every symptom. And I was so excited. I had a diagnosis.
Yes.
I kind of like just didn't even hear the fact, oh, you're going to be on medication for the rest of your life. I didn't hear that part. I was just like, okay, whatever. I just so happy to feel better. So about 6 months later, I'm back in her office because all my symptoms are back. And that's when she tells me, well, your thyroid stimulating hormone's in range. So your thyroid's fine. There's nothing I can do for you. I would recommend some antidepressants.
Oh my God.
There's nothing I could do for you. Yeah, we're back to this, right? Or maybe the birth control pill, So it was a really hard, I fired her. I was young, but I fired her. And I remember asking her for a full thyroid panel at the time. And she said I was making things too complicated.
Oh my goodness. No. Goodbye.
Actual words. Yeah. I was like, goodbye, get out of here. And I just knew like I wasn't supposed to feel like I was in an 80-year-old's body at 20,
Yep, exactly.
And so I just did a lot of research and I found a functional medicine doctor, and honestly, he saved my life. I mean, I went from all those symptoms I kind of listed out to no symptoms in about 90 days, doing functional lab work, looking at my gut, supporting my body. And, once I got a taste of what it was like to change my own life and have the authority within myself to make those changes with some help, right?
Yes.
I started realizing how many of my friends were going through similar things, and how many of them were dealing with crippling issues with their periods and with their hormones, like their thyroid or other hormones like progesterone and estrogen. And eventually I just couldn't keep quiet anymore. I was at a conference for my job, and Monsanto was the keynote speaker. And they had Roundup Ready, which is the main herbicide that we have that's storing our guts, on the table, on the rounds of, like usually if you go to a conference, it's like a table with, candles, right? Or flowers. In the center of the table was a herbicide box. Was a Roundup Ready box. And this guy was like the lobbyist for Monsanto. He's saying, oh, organic food isn't better for you. And, just use our products to 5,000 farmers.
Oh my God.
Yep. And I was like, no, like, this can't be the people that I serve, right? I can't be getting coffee for this guy.
Yeah.
So I ripped off my headset. I ran up to my room. I pulled out my card and I charged money I didn't have onto my credit card to start my career as a health coach.
Oh, I love that. That is amazing. And I love that you talk about being your own advocate, because I talk about that all the time too on the show, and how they told me because I was 36 that I needed to do a medical procedure to get pregnant. And I was like, I'm not taking that. I know my body, I know it's healthy, and I know it can do this naturally. So I love that. I encourage everybody listening, be your own advocate. If you're told you're normal and you have symptoms like that popping up, that's not normal. You don't have to live like that. So definitely speak up for yourself.
I so agree with you. I mean, that's probably something I say every day. It feels like, to the people in my Instagram messages and everything. So yeah, I love that you stood up for yourself in that way too, because that's another area where we just get gaslit and then pushed into a medical procedure that costs tens of thousands of dollars. And a lot of times we don't even need that if we work on our bodies. So
exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. I know it frustrates me so much too, because, I have a client right now, she's 35 and she's pregnant, and she's being told like, gastric, advanced maternal age, and you need to have all these tests done, and there might be something wrong with the baby, and she's just freaking out. And I'm like, take a deep breath. You are healthy. You eat right. You do all the things. You're fine. Like, don't be gaslit by these doctors telling you that something's going to be wrong. So it just frustrates me so much. So I love that we're talking about this now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about period health. I know you work a lot with periods and hormones. So just before we do that, let's just talk about what does it look like to have a healthy period? Just really quick, what should our period actually look like?
Yeah. So our period, this is never discussed either, right? We're never really told.
Nope.
So our period, a normal period, and I use air quotes for normal because, I don't want you to think you're abnormal. There's something wrong. It's just something to maybe pay attention to, right? It's like your period becomes your fifth vital sign and your report card for the month. And that's an amazing thing that women have access to, right? Men don't have access to that. We get to see what's going on with our health by the health of our period. So a healthy period would look like, in terms of length, around 2 to 7 days. Anything shorter than that, you might be looking at estrogen deficiency. Anything longer than that, maybe too much estrogen. So we don't want you to be bleeding for forever. And then in terms of heaviness, we want to not have to be changing our tampons or our pads more than every hour. If you're doing it like every hour, every 90 minutes, that's a lot of blood. And cumulatively, that could be a lot over, depending on how much time you're having. So heavy bleeding is another thing to kind of look out for. And then the quality of the blood, right? So if you're having a lot of clots that are large clots, that's another sign that maybe something is going on with your hormones that needs to be addressed. Tail end brown bleeding or beginning your period with some brown bleeding could also be, a suggestion of maybe looking at your thyroid or some progesterone deficiencies. And then how long is your overall cycle? So your period is not just the time you're bleeding. You actually have this incredibly beautiful hormonal symphony that's happening every single month. You're actually a different human each week of your month, which is a whole other podcast.
Yes.
But the length of time between bleeds is important to pay attention to. So most women are not bleeding every 28 days on the dot, nor are they ovulating on day 14. We know that is mostly not true. The percentages are less than 20% actually for women to have that type of consistency. So if you are a little bit irregular, plus or minus a few days, don't freak out. That's okay. But if you're over 35 days or you're under 21 days, that's usually when we start saying, okay, what's going on? Shorter might mean like a short luteal phase. Longer, maybe you're looking at PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, or something else that's causing a delay in your ovulation, which is then causing a delay in your period. So I think those are the markers that I look at the most, is how often is it coming? How long is it? The other one would be cramping. We should experience minimal cramps. I know, I'm going to say it louder for the girls in the back. Minimal cramps. You do not have to be doubled over in pain with your period. That's actually a sign of a hormonal imbalance, as is PMS, premenstrual syndrome. That's actually a hormonal imbalance. So there's actually a ton of clues to figure out, hey, am I doing okay here? Are there things I need to adjust? And you get to be in control of that. And that, I think, is so cool.
I love that. Yes. And I say this a lot too, but I love when somebody comes to me and says, like, my period came and went. I didn't even realize it was coming. It was gone before I knew it. And it was so easy. I had no symptoms. And I'm like, yes, that's amazing.
Yes, it's so good. I love when that happens. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's so possible. I had a girl, it was funny. I don't know if you ever find this, but I had a girl who had 10-day periods. She bled like really heavy, and she was just so like cramping and just so uncomfortable for those whole 10 days every month. And so we're doing the work in one of my programs, EmpowerHER, and after the second month, her period gets to be 4 to 5 days with no pain. And she's like, I don't even know, that must not be a period. I said, no, this is actually normal.
Right.
Yeah. To look forward to. It was funny how I think we kind of don't think that these things are normal because we've never been taught.
Right. Yes. I see that all the time, for sure. It's so crazy. And we're taught that our period should be miserable, that we should be cramping and like, just take some Midol, or, you should be bleeding really heavy. Just use a bigger tampon, which it's like, no, you don't have to do this. You have to, you can get a healthy, easy period and not have to do all those things. So
Definitely. I love that message.
Yes. So let's talk about some things we can do to support a healthy period. What's maybe, your top 2 or 3?
Yeah. Okay. So the list is a lot longer than 2 or 3, but let's think about this. So I would say my top ones are probably magnesium is a
Mhm.
incredibly important mineral that every single one of my clients is deficient in, and I have no problem recommending it in the
Mhm.
amount of 300 milligrams to 500 milligrams, depending on your weight. Therapeutic amounts of magnesium are 5 times your body weight. So I usually start women with 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate if they're having period cramps, PMS, anything like that, because it is so important. And if you have
Mhm.
insulin resistant PCOS, it can also be helpful in managing your insulin and your blood sugar. So I just find that to be an incredibly helpful supplement. Yes, you can get it from food, but our soils are really depleted in magnesium. So
Mhm.
the same leafy greens that we were eating for magnesium 60, 70 years ago, not what we have today. So I usually recommend that. And then I would say second tip would be managing our stress, which is
Yes.
don't shoot the messenger. I
Right?
know I'm type A too. I'm a perfectionist too. It's hard. It's really, really challenging to manage emotional stress in this day and age. But meditation or walking or calling a friend or laughing or dancing or singing or do whatever you need to do to get out of fight or flight and get out of that nervous system stress place is going to help. And the reason it's going to help is because your body knows when it's safe. And when it doesn't feel safe, it's not going to ovulate on time or create enough progesterone. And if you're not creating enough progesterone or ovulating regularly, you're either going to have an irregular cycle or a very painful, heavy cycle because
Mhm.
estrogen is going to be running the show the entire month. And we want progesterone to take over in the second half. So I
Mhm.
would say that is a big one. And then the third one would probably be diet. So this is why it becomes more than 3 things, but
Yes.
the name of the game in the first half of the cycle is boost nutrients, boost nutrients. You know, you really want your brain and your ovaries to be connecting. If there's a disconnect there, like like I always think of the game or the game telephone,
Yeah.
your ovary, your brain, your hypothalamus and pituitary are like, hey, I'm trying to call ovaries. And your ovaries are like, what's that? I can't quite hear. Because
Right?
your body's inflamed, right? And
Mm.
doesn't have enough of the building blocks to build hormones. So when we look at
Mhm.
what is a quote diet, or I hate the word diet, but like nutrition that helps to build hormones, we're talking about healthy fats. We're
Mhm.
talking about enough protein. I will say I've had a lot of problems with vegan clients with not getting enough protein and fats in. Unfortunately, I know that that's, probably a hard thing to hear too, but I've seen that really dysregulate a cycle. So enough healthy fats, enough protein, plant and animal based, but just like mixing it up maybe depending on the
Mhm.
person's body, what they need, and lowering things that cause inflammation. So most of my clients, sugar, gluten, and dairy are probably the most inflammatory for their periods. And so, we kind of think about adding in all these nutrients, adding in all the, you know, all the nutrients of leafy green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, fruits, all those things,
Mhm.
and taking away anything that might be causing you specifically inflammation. And then just as a broad umbrella, what I'm seeing is sugar, alcohol, gluten, and
Mm.
dairy are probably my top 4 that cause massive inflammation. And so if you're having issues, doing a little trial where you don't have those things you can really see a big difference in, 30 to 90 days with your period.
Mhm. And I completely agree with all of those. And just a couple of things. So I love that you mentioned magnesium. That's also one of my favorite supplements. As always, I say on the show, check with your doctor before you add a supplement, but magnesium is one that's found in food. So they'll probably be okay with it. And it is great as well to protect us from COVID. It's one of the minerals that we need to take on a regular basis to kind of have our overall supplement load protecting from that. So I love that you say that. Then the piece on stress, I completely agree. And it's more than just like relax. It's actually having that stress management plan in place, which I think you kind of
Mhm.
alluded to, which I love that.
Yeah.
And then the nutrition piece too. I agree with all of that. Definitely healthy fats and balanced whole food nutrition and staying
Yeah.
away from those inflammatory foods. So yes, I love it.
Yeah, and I think, you said something about the stress management plan. I think of it, I say the same thing. It's like a toolkit. toolkit. What is your stress management toolkit? Because stress is going to come in, right? And that's just emotional stress. That's not even like what I do, which is like gut stress and heavy metals and all those other stressors we're combating. So I do think it's important to have a toolkit you can rely on that helps you to de-stress and relax.
Yeah, for sure. And I find too, a lot of times when we're in flight or flight, we just kind of like forget all the stress management pieces that we know. And we're just like, oh my God, I'm freaking out here. So really having that in place and having it somewhere where you're like, okay, I do something called a nourishment menu where I have all these self-care pieces on a list, and you can just like look at that and be like, oh yeah, I need to go take a walk outside. That will help me, so you're not forgetting.
I love that. A nourishment menu. That's great. I have one of the exercises I have my clients do, I don't know if this helps anyone, is I have them, when they're not in a place of stress, make a list of 50 things that bring them joy. So that they have this list to, like, the next time that they need some joy in their life, which hopefully is every day, they can choose from their list, right? And then it's like they have this, I love that idea of nourishment. Like this nourishment is so much bigger than just the food we put in our mouths, right? It's how we're living our lives. Can we actually encourage more joy and bliss in our lives, and then magic happens.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And I know we're talking about, healthy periods, healthy hormones. This also affects our fertility. And so a lot of ladies listening, we want to make sure that we're having those healthy cycles, that they're long enough, that they're healthy, and that's going to help encourage and boost our fertility. So it works both ways, whether you're trying to get pregnant now or in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm in the world of more of building up good period health and encouraging women, empowering women about their periods. And I think that has so many effects. It's fertility. It's how we move through the world. It's allowing us to not be held back by our hormones. We get such a bad rap about that. There's so many benefits to getting your hormones balanced. The list kind of just goes on and on. It'd probably be its own podcast.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about histamine. This is something that we really don't talk about enough, and I think it's super important. So what is histamine, and what is histamine intolerance?
Yes, I love this topic because it is something, you're right, it's just not talked about, and no one's making this connection because it's kind of an odd connection to make. So histamine, it's not a bad thing in and of itself. Like it's actually good that we all have histamine in our body. But too much histamine is really not fun, because too much histamine can be responsible for headaches or migraines, fatigue, brain fog, bloating, itching, insomnia, irritability, gut issues, just, kind of the list goes on and on here in terms of unpleasant symptoms that histamine has to do with. And so, histamine is actually there to help, but it just gets a bad rap because we get overstimulated with histamine. So basically the way histamine works is that when your body gets exposed to an allergen, say like dust or maybe pollen, right? It's going to trigger histamine from the immune cells. And it's actually from an immune cell called mast cells. And histamine is actually there to thin out the red blood vessels. And that's going to create a way for your immune system's white blood cells to come in there and get to the problem area. So it's actually, it is serving a really good function in the body, but it's when we have too much that there's a problem. And that's why someone who might have allergies or things like this, they might take an antihistamine like Benadryl to kind of help lower that histamine load and therefore lower the symptoms.
Gotcha. So, and I know that histamine can be related to estrogen and kind of mess our cycles up. So let's talk about that a little bit. How is that related?
Yes, this is the connection that people do not understand. So you might have heard, oh my gosh, ovulation is like the best time. I feel like it's my summertime and I'm so happy. And then you're like, wait, I feel awful at ovulation. Why do I feel bad? Histamine might be the issue. And that's because estrogen upregulates histamine. And there is an enzyme, because the body is so smart, there's an enzyme that we have called DAO that actually down regulates histamine. And unfortunately, estrogen not only pushes up histamine, but it also lowers that DAO in the body. And so when we're at ovulation, if we have, that's usually when we have the most estrogen, because obviously that's going to kick off the whole ovulation process. If that's upregulating histamine at that time, you could have a lot of really uncomfortable symptoms. I would say probably fatigue and headaches are the ones I see like the most often come up for women. Although I've had some pretty severe, I had like a canker sore reaction where my whole mouth broke out in hives. Yeah, it was awful. I had 15 canker sores from the hives.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
yeah.
miserable.
And it kept happening. And I was like, why is this happening? And I found out it was because I was ovulating at the time. And then there's a whole gut health part that we can talk about too. And so now I don't have that issue anymore.
Good.
But it's definitely something that I didn't know. I had no idea what was happening. Yeah. And it's because of this estrogen histamine reaction. It's almost like a double whammy because of the way estrogen works. And unfortunately, more histamine means more estrogen means more histamine. So it's like a chicken and egg loop that really is frustrating to try and break.
And let's bring gut health into that. I know gut health is another thing that I don't feel like it's talked about enough, and it controls so many things, as you know. So how does kind of gut health and histamine, how does that play a role?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of specialize in the gut hormone connection. Every single client I have who has hormonal imbalances has gut issues. So I just, first of all, I want to say, like, if you think this doesn't apply to you, but you have hormone imbalances, it might. Like I've definitely seen it where the digestive symptoms, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, are not on someone's chart. They're not experiencing that, but they are experiencing hormone imbalances. And when we run a stool test, we find out what's actually going on. So they do play a huge role together. And when it comes to histamine, the way that this is involved is your immune system, 80% of your immune system is held in the gut. Okay, so we know that histamine is a reaction from the immune system. So when the gut is leaky, and I can explain what that means in a second, or there's intestinal dysbiosis, which I can also explain in a second.
Yes.
When we have leaky gut or intestinal dysbiosis, it's going to overactivate your immune system. And that includes histamine intolerance. So what could have been fine 3 months ago, if you have now leaky gut, your immune system is getting ticked off, okay, by that, the antigen, by the dust, by the pollen, by the dog fur, whatever you're, kind of sensitive to. And in addition to that, your intestines are where you actually create most of that enzyme, DAO, that is what is responsible for breaking down histamine. So your body might actually produce less DAO when the gut is inflamed or damaged. And that's going to also have that buildup of histamine. And so we can really heal a lot of histamine through healing the gut, through personalized testing and understanding what is truly going on down there at the more molecular level.
Gotcha. And I would love for you to go into what leaky gut and dysbiosis is, just for those of us who don't know.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So leaky gut is, or intestinal hyperpermeability is how it's referenced in the literature, or IP. If you ever look up like a PubMed article, that's how it'll be listed. Leaky gut. So the word makes sense. I wish I had like a chart to show you, but this is how I think of it. Think of your gut lining as one cell thick, and it's like saran wrap. So it's very flimsy. And say you get exposed to antibiotics or birth control or heavy metals or gluten, toothpicks in the saran wrap. That's how I think of it. It's like tearing through the lining. In reality, it's a little bit more specific than that. It's there's these tight junctions that I think of as maybe like you're holding hands or you're holding your fingers together, and they get loosened. So we know that there's certain things that just 100% of time, 100% of people loosen, just open up those tight junctions. And that is the two that come to mind that are the most prevalent are gluten. And also the other one is going to be the herbicides, pesticides like Roundup. That's why I was mentioning it earlier. Yes. So those actually open up those tight junctions. And what that means is that now, say you eat a banana, and the banana is going down into your gut. And all of a sudden now, instead of having that saran wrap, that layer to protect it and keep it inside the tube inside your body, now there's a hole in that tube and the banana is hitting your immune system. A whole piece of food is not supposed to hit your immune system. It's supposed to be broken down into tiny little bites, small pieces. And that filters through, it's called diffusion, and that filters through the cells. And then that's how we absorb our nutrients. So
Mm-hmm.
instead, what's happening is these huge proteins are hitting the bloodstream, hitting the immune system, and the immune system is like, what in the heck is that banana? So it starts attacking that, and now you have food sensitivities, right? So now like, well, why can't I eat this? And why can't I eat that? So that's leaky gut. And leaky gut is a precursor to autoimmune disease. It certainly was a huge factor in me developing autoimmune thyroiditis. So it's a huge deal. Everyone has a little bit of leaky gut, I would say. You know, it's kind of something we always have to be working on because our gut is always hit with these different issues, right? There's a lot out there.
Yes.
And so we can build up the body consistently and keep our gut lining less permeable so that doesn't happen. So that's that.
Yes. And one thing to mention on that, which I don't think a lot of people realize, and you can speak to this, but you can actually heal this from healing your gut. So it can cause that, the hands to get closer together again. So you just want to touch briefly on that.
Yeah. So leaky gut, like I mentioned, is kind of caused by things. So there's two components to healing leaky gut, I would say. One is remove the thing that's causing it. So say you're eating gluten all the time, and we know that causes, the permeability issue, or tons of sugar or alcohol or things like that, or even stress. Yes. Don't shoot the messenger. We have science that shows us that leaky gut is caused by stress. So if we can remove the triggers, that's step one. But then the thing that I see people miss is the healing part. Like, we've got to actually heal up that lining. It's like, okay, if you're having a war and it was medieval times and your gut is like the castle wall, and you stop the war, you're still gonna have holes in the castle wall, right? From all the bullets and things. So there's supplements you can take. There's bone broth, gelatin is really healing. Aloe vera is healing. There's so many herbs out there, depending on what you discuss with your practitioner, to help with that. Bone broth is huge. Collagen is another one. So there's kind of two components. And then it's like, okay, I've done this healing, so let's keep it up. Let's not put any more holes in the lining, right? So then we just have to try to keep our gut healthy from that point forward. I love you can heal it.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you mentioned gluten and dairy, because I find a lot of my clients, and I'm sure you the same, they'll say, well, we do the whole, I do a reset and then I do a reintroduction, and they're like, but I'm not really sensitive and I don't have celiac. So why do I have to eliminate these things? Even though you're not sensitive or celiac does not mean it's not causing gut permeability. So you just need to eliminate them, period. I don't care if you're not sensitive or not. So
I couldn't agree. Yeah, I could not agree more. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, food freedom, and I'm all about that too, but not when it comes to gluten, because if you're coming to me and you have symptoms, there's a problem, and it usually starts with the gut, and we know gluten causes intestinal hyperpermeability. So I draw a pretty firm line on that one. And if you look at the literature and what we're finding about gluten, unfortunately, like, it's not just gut issues. It's related to brain fog, fatigue, hormone imbalances. There's skin issues. I can't tell you how many things. Okay, I've seen, when someone gives up gluten, I've seen brain fog go away, headaches go away, like migraines literally never coming back. Okay. There's actually research on this that 90% of people who give up gluten have their migraines go away.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's huge. Skin, acne gone, eczema gone, weight drops. I lost 10 pounds when I gave up gluten. 10 pounds.
Amazing.
In 2 weeks.
Wow.
So it's so inflammatory for most people. That's not to say if you go to Europe and you have some nice gluten that's not hybridized, that it won't be a problem. But here in the United States, it's a really big issue. So if I can give any advice, try it. Just try it for like a week and see what happens.
For sure. And it's so easy, I feel like, these days to give up gluten, especially if you're eating a whole foods diet. I mean, there's so many fruits, vegetables, lean meats, all that stuff. You don't even have room to have any gluten. So, but yes, if you go to Europe and you're in like this beautiful Italian restaurant with all natural, bread and things, definitely have a piece of that bread, but not.
Yes, enjoy that bread.
I love it. So talk to me a little, well, let's talk about the dysbiosis, kind of what that is and how to help with that. And then we'll go into some things that we can do to just reduce our overall histamine load.
Yeah, great. Okay, so dysbiosis. Dysbiosis means an imbalance of gut bacteria. So we have trillions of microbes in our gut. We actually have more microbes than we have human cells in our body. I mean, there's so many. And we're learning a lot about the microbiome, which you can kind of think of as like the home for all of the gut bugs. And so we have kind of pathogenic or bad bugs, if you want to kind of distill it down to that. And we have good, beneficial, benevolent bugs. Okay. So we have like two different kind of groupings, and we can measure this to a certain extent on lab work. And dysbiosis means when there's too much of the bad ones and not enough of the good ones. And what can happen is the bad ones will overpopulate and crowd out the good stuff. And that can cause constipation or diarrhea, nausea, things like this, but also brain fog, insulin resistance, weight gain, thyroid issues, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
One of the biggest ones in relation to our periods and fertility and hormones is it can create a really big imbalance with estrogen elimination, and metabolites of estrogen go through a whole process where they get detoxified through the liver, but then they also have to get detoxified through the gut. And so I see this a lot with dysbiosis, where the gut is full of the bad guys, not enough of the good guys. We'll run a GI maps and we'll see that this person has really high markers of something called beta glucuronidase. And when we see that, we know that the person is not detoxifying their toxins. And that includes hormones that have been already used. And so basically I think of it as the Amazon plant. You order something on Amazon, so your ovaries create the estrogen, right? Then it has to go through the liver. So it's in the Amazon plant getting packaged. It gets sent out to you. That's sent to your gut. And then the gut is like the Amazon delivery guy that's underpaid. He like chucks your box at the door and everything comes out.
Oh my gosh.
That's the problem. So I see a lot of estrogen excess through the gut. And so that's why gut dysbiosis is such a big deal. And for histamine, obviously, as well, we would really not want an overgrowth there, because then your gut is really overburdened with all these other bacterias that it has to deal with.
For sure. So what do we do about this? Well, actually, first, before we answer this question, we're going to take a short break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back and learn what we can do about this, some quick tips. So we'll be right back. Hey, y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. Whether you're struggling to get pregnant with pesky hormone symptoms, or you're working to build a career in the fertility and women's health space, we have you covered. Visit our website at www.coachkayla.com to learn more on how we can help you. Text the keyword fertility to 615-257-8855 for your free fertility meal plan. Welcome back, Sophie.
Yay, I'm excited to talk about solutions now.
Yes. So we talked about histamine in the first half. So let's talk about, what do we do if we notice some of these symptoms are popping up and we think it might be histamine, we think it might be dysbiosis or leaky gut? What are kind of, your kind of go-to things that'll help us to start to heal these things?
Yeah, so I think I see a lot of people treat symptoms and I get that, like, that's the thing that's bothering you. But when we want long-term success, I'm always looking for the root cause, right? So I'll answer this with two parts. One's allopathic, meaning short-term to give you relief. And then the other one is long-term, kind of root cause support, right? Yes. So the allopathic or relief one is to reduce histamine containing foods and histamine releasing foods. So I'll go through those. So containing foods, so that means the histamine is actually in the food. Don't shoot the messenger. Alcohol.
Oh no.
Especially beer and wine, right? It makes sense. Like fermented foods as well, pickles, smoked meat, sauerkraut, bone broth. And yes, I know I'm literally saying bone broth heals your gut. Wait, but it's histamine. So there's this paradigm with gut health where we have to figure out, okay, sometimes we have to remove things short temporarily while we heal, and then we can reintroduce things, right? And it's not a problem anymore. So that's just, I'll put that caveat out there. Yes. Continuing with the histamine containing list, we're looking at cheese, dairy, cider, dried fruits like apricots, dates, prunes, figs, raisins, canned fish like sardines and mackerel, which otherwise are just so healthful, but in this case might be a trigger for you. Smoked fish too. sausage, hot dogs, salami. You're kind of getting the sense, right? It's like cured foods, dried
Mm-hmm.
foods,
Mm-hmm.
create histamine.
Fermented. Yeah.
Fermented yogurt, soured breads, spinach, tomatoes, eggplant, mushrooms, and avocados also contain histamine, which is a really interesting mix of healthy foods that have it. And then anything containing vinegar, so like salad dressing, pickled beets, relishes, that kind of thing, they all contain histamine. So I think another important part here is like, you might be like, oh my gosh, that's everything I eat. Don't worry. You don't have to take everything out, right? Maybe it's an awareness. So for example, when I'm ovulating, I don't drink a kombucha and have goat cheese and drink bone broth and have spinach with my eggs.
Right.
I just don't do all of those things on the same day. Like, so that's kind of an awareness of these foods. And you can be like, okay, like I'm going to skip the kombucha today and I'm going to skip the dairy. And then I'm just going to, have my spinach and my eggs and beef, that's going to be in my avocado, and that's all good. So everyone's histamine intolerance is different. And you might have to experiment a little bit there. And then
that, sorry to interrupt, but is that where we would, especially during ovulation and luteal, when our estrogen is really high, this is when we're going to have the most sensitivity if we have a histamine issue during those times? Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So during ovulation, and then if you have a hormone imbalance where there's too much estrogen in the second half of your cycle in the luteal phase, then that would be when you would want to watch out for that. For sure. Yeah. And then histamine releasing foods. So these are foods that like release histamine into the body. They don't contain it. Alcohol shows up again. Bananas, interestingly enough, chocolate, eggs, fish, milk, papaya, pineapples, shellfish, strawberries, and tomatoes. So really good foods for us, right? Like overall, really healthy foods. So I'm by no means saying you need to 100% eliminate all these foods. Again, it's am I eating a diet full of these things? Am I having a strawberry, banana, spinach smoothie every day and triggering my histamine? Can I swap that for, baby kale and mango and, something like that, as opposed to, kind of just crushing your body with histamine. So that's again, that's allopathic. That's okay. Let's remove the trigger, right? But it doesn't really solve the issue if you have a hormone imbalance or a gut problem, right?
Right.
So yes. So now I can talk about that.
Yes.
So another thing, I guess, actually to mention before that is just genetically, you can have a SNP, which means that you have a kind of an issue in your enzymes, and you can have an issue with your DAO enzyme. So genetically, you could have a problem breaking down histamine. And so you can actually supplement directly with DAO. So if you did find out that you had, a genetic issue in your SNP for DAO, you could supplement with that continuously for that support. And B6 also helps the enzyme DAO. So I think that's really interesting too, because B6 is so important for PMS and for breaking down estrogen in the bodies. So that's a really interesting food or supplement to think about as well. Awesome. So then let's think about, the gut stuff and the hormone stuff. So I recommend if you've been struggling for a really long time and you are kind of like, okay, well, I've tried to relieve the foods. I've tried DAO, I've tried B6, or I've tried probiotics that support histamine. That's kind of when I think, okay, let's dig a little deeper. And this is where, you might need to work with a practitioner and get some labs. And I would definitely recommend the GI maps and the Dutch test, because if you are dealing with an estrogen excess, you might need a little supplementation support to help with the metabolism there, either in your gut or your liver. Now, you can help with things like broccoli sprout, cruciferous vegetables, raw carrot, all help to release estrogen. You can eat foods that are rich in vitamin C and B6 and magnesium and potassium to help boost progesterone, but it's maybe not enough. Sometimes food's enough, right? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes we need a little extra help. So I do recommend, some sort of full hormone test, not blood serum, because blood serum is not going to tell you how your estrogen is going through the liver. And I really like the Dutch Complete or any other lab that shows you how, the relationship of estrogen in phase 1 and phase 2 of your liver detoxification. So you can get very specific about what supplement you need and not just choose stuff randomly and waste your money.
Yes, exactly. And we actually offer a test similar to Dutch here. And I'm sure you offer something too, where we test all our sex hormones for fertility. We test our detoxification pathways, our estrogen detox pathways, our methylation, all of that. So it's and full thyroid, not just your thyroid stimulating hormones. So we do T4,
Hooray.
T3, all of that stuff. So yeah, I love it. Super important.
Yeah.
I think testing could be a whole show in itself, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to say that, and I'm sure you agree, definitely we want to test. We don't want to just guess at what's going on, especially when it comes to trying to spot correct our symptoms or trying to throw some supplements at it and just be like, oh, my friend's taking this, I'm going to take this. We want to know if it's actually what we need and if it's going to work. Because if not, it's going to waste, you're just wasting your money, like what you said.
Wasting your money, wasting your time. I mean, these things are affecting you big time too. I think that's something that we kind of gloss over. Like, if you're having a migraine, you can't work, you can't take care of your kids. Like there's huge impacts here. So yeah, I always recommend test, don't guess. And I've worked with twins before, and I will tell you, their gut microbiomes looked 100% different. So there really is not one size fits all. There's general recommendations, but like we were just talking about, there's this huge paradigm between, well, sauerkraut and kombuchas have healthy gut bugs. They have probiotics, but if you have a histamine issue, you can't tolerate that right now. So we have to heal the gut first and maybe eliminate some parasites, eliminate some gut dysbiosis, eliminate yeast. I see that probably on a daily basis at this point. So our guts need some love, and it doesn't necessarily, our symptoms can be far removed from the actual causes. So that's something too, is we can chase our symptoms till we're blue in the face. But if we're not getting to the root cause, we're going to have continued issues in my experience. And that is heartbreaking, because I don't want any woman to be dealing with these symptoms.
No. And I love too what you said about not testing through blood, because I find a lot of times my clients, and I'm sure yours are the same, are like, I'll just go to my doctor and get tested. And I'm like, no, they're not testing, not that the doctor's doing anything wrong, but they're not testing as deeply as a functional practitioner will. They're not looking at all of this and how it affects things. And they're just looking for normal levels. They're not looking for optimal levels. So we could do a whole show in that, but for the sake of time, yes, I agree. We definitely want to get a functional practitioner to look at our, to do our hormone testing through dried urine or saliva or both. So super important. Yes. Yeah.
So important. And I love Death Chest. I run that in my practice, and it's awesome.
Yes. So, I would love to talk to you all day. We could probably even have you back on, because we have so much to talk about, but we do have to wrap up. So talk to us about your programs. What programs do you offer? Where can people find you? And kind of tell us all the things where you're at.
Yeah, I know. I want to come back. This was so fun. So my company is She Talks Health. She Talks Health is the podcast, the website, the Instagram, the Facebook. So whatever platform you're on, just search for She Talks Health and you'll find me. I have an open DM policy, so please reach out to me. I have tons of resources on my website. My blog and my podcast are all free. I have a workshop about birth control and understanding the pros and cons. And by the time this airs, I'll actually be launching a birth control course that you can do by yourself to help support your body while transitioning off birth control, if that's what you decide with your practitioner. And then as far as working with me directly, I have a few different options for every single person. And probably my favorite thing to talk about is my She Health Experience, which is a revolutionary 6-step method and a 6-month integrative program with not only me, but 3 additional incredible coaches to help you heal everything that's going on in your body on a physical level, but also on an emotional, spiritual level. We have a doctor of pelvic floor physical therapy on staff who is a holistic and integrative practitioner who helps women heal emotional trauma in their womb and gut space, digestive space. We have an eating psychology coach, a nutritionist, Sarah, who is incredible with helping you reconnect with food and reconnect with the way you think about your body, which is such a huge epidemic in this country. And then, of course, myself and Becca. And Becca is the head accountability coach in that. And so what we do is we fuse the integrative approach here. We fuse the emotional parts, so how we speak to ourselves and our food, how trauma relies and kind of stays in the body and then simulates physical symptoms. But we also get down into the nitty gritty with me and the lab testing, so we can get out any of those physical stressors like gut bugs, heavy metals, mold, things like that, so that you can have a total transformation. Because my dream in this world is that women are not held back for 1 second by their hormones, by their gut issues, by their symptoms. I think women can rule the world, and we are so often held back by our physical limitations and the way we view ourselves. And I want women to feel empowered and encouraged to stand fully in their power. And the She Health experience does that. And it literally gives me goosebumps. It makes me want to cry because I'm seeing these women just totally transform. So yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So amazing. The work that you do is just so needed in this world. So thank you for doing it. And thank you for being here. And I would love any final thoughts, any words of encouragement, anything you want to leave us with.
Yeah. You, as a woman listening to this, or a menstruator listening to this, have so much more power than you're giving yourself credit. You have the power to change your life. You have the power to show up the way you want to show up. All it takes is actually just a bit of bravery and maybe the right support. And you can do this. Like, wherever you are, I have come back from so many issues. I've seen my clients come back from so much. You can do this. You just need the right push and the right support, and you can transform everything. So please don't give up on yourself. Advocate for yourself. Do the work, and you get to see everything magically show up for you, and you get to have it all.
I love that. Oh, and I completely agree. Amazing. Well, thank you, Sophie, for being here. It's been so fun to talk to you. Like I said, I could talk to you all day. So thank you.
Yeah, this is so fun. Thank you so much. And I can't wait for this episode to air and for women to hopefully learn something new and get to help their bodies.
Yes, for sure. And thank you, ladies, for listening to the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L Podcast. Until next time, bye. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.